For the whole of August, Texx Talks is celebrating Women's Month with our good friends Tom's, the only music store. Tom's have generously given us the M Audio Vocal Studio Pro Kit to give away in the month of August. I'm actually using it to record this right now. The kit includes studio quality headphones and a condenser microphone that all plugs into their signature USB audio interface. Perfect for getting studio quality audio right at home. We want you, the listener, to nominate an exceptional lady that you think would benefit the most from this opportunity. Simply head over to our pinned post on social channels and tag the woman who you think deserves this gift. And make sure you follow Texx Talks for all our exciting Women's Month episodes. That's Texx with a double X. Also, if you're thinking about picking up an instrument for the first time, or you're looking to upgrade, just head on over to any one of the several Tom stores around the country where their epic staff are ready and waiting to say, how's it?
Hello and welcome to Texx Talks. I am Texx and today I am talking to South Africa's undisputed queen of rock and roll. This powerhouse performer is a singer, songwriter, guitarist and composer who has gained critical acclaim for her music work in both English and Afrikaans, with her early work having influenced an entire generation of South Africans. All through her career, she has held onto an enviable integrity that allows her to speak her mind. And recently, we have become as familiar with her face as we are with her voice. As the host of a flawless variety show on CakeNet, as well as one of the most popular judges on reality TV competition, The Voice SA. I am, of course, talking about all-round entertainer and inspiration, Karen Zoid. Karen, welcome. I am so glad that I can finally pin you down for this chat. It's been long overdue.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Always nice to spend time with you.
Now, the first time we met, you were doing a press run for season 2 of your show. And it was at the one and only, and I was the last interview of the day. And I essentially had 15 minutes with you, but we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. And I remember I was at a crossroads in my career at the time. And I was thinking about leaving my job that I was at. And you were like, just do it, man. Just do it. Be your own boss. So, Karen, I want to tell you that the podcast, my events, all of my side hustles, it's all your fault.
I'll take all the credit immediately. Oh, that's so cool. It's so cool to hear that I've planted some seeds or I watered some of those seeds. I'm sure there have been many other women telling you the same.
No, you. No. But with a career that's enjoyed the longevity of yours, I think we 100% have to take things back to the beginning. So you released your debut album, Poles Apart, in 2002. And then 2 years later, in 2004, Times Magazine is already referring to the youth of that time as the Zoid generation. What was your reaction to this very bold, very flattering statement?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird things, as you know. I mean, you're in this business. So one day you're mentioned in Time Magazine, and the next day there's 3 people at your concert at Grahamstown, and then the next day it's a ride being in entertainment. I think for me at the time, when I was very young, when I started, because I was addicted to drugs as a teenager, and I had a kind of a bad family life, there was very, very little expectation of me to make anything of myself. My father expected me to overdose and die. And I did that a few times. So, yeah, when that happened, I kind of realized that it's over. I don't know how to say. My teenage years were very difficult, and the first 2 years of going professional, if you can call it that, but when I changed my name to Karen Zoid, those days it was weird, and that I didn't I always felt different, but now I was posted as different in a different way, and it was a new era of my life.
You were born as Karen Louise Greef. And what I've always wanted to ask was, where did the Zoid come in? Because you said now that you renamed yourself Karen Zoid. So when did that happen?
I always wanted to change my surname because Greef is pronounced as grief. When your father is Dr. Greef, people say, can I please speak to Dr. Grief on their phone? And he's doing business with people in Canada. The grief. Plus, my mom had already died when I was 9. I had enough of grief in my life. So I wanted to change my name, and I was looking for a cool stage name. And a friend of mine at film school happened to make a movie called Zoid. It was a space age movie, and I was sitting paging through this book. It's called American Slang Dictionary, and actually found the word Zoid in the book. And it means a person who doesn't comply with society's norms and expectations. And I was like, that's my name. And it's Z, so I'm at the end. You get noticed when you're in the beginning or at the end more than when you're in the middle.
I love that.
Yeah.
So who were the musicians on the scene at the time that you started? Like, who were you bumping into regularly at gigs and bars? What did the scene look like?
Well, my inspiration as a teenager, I started playing in bands when I was 16. And I was in a band called Bad Weather, actually, before Karen Zoid became me, solo artist. And at that time, that was the late 90s. Bad Weather broke up in 1999, and then I started going solo in 2000. So at that time, I used to go watch bands like Wonderboom, live Jimi Presley, Battery 9, Moses Molelekwa. I used to go to Baseline and just hang out there in Kippies, Pussy Mahlasela, Eight-Legged Groove Machine, Cherry for Cannibals, Springbok Noodles, obviously. They were like gods when I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. It would show, an international act dare not come to South Africa if the Noodles weren't opening. It was like, but I was from Joburg. This is before Kalula and all that. You could just quickly fly down. You had to drive down. Unless you were flippin' rich, you would fly to Cape Town. We used to drive to Cape Town. So there was a scene in Joburg. There was a scene in Pretoria. There was a scene in Cape Town. It's still kind of like that. But it was a bit stronger. And Joburg bands in general just have a different vibe. So I was Joburg. That's Wonderboom, Battery 9, Electric Petals. Those kind of bands were our bands. Felt like they belonged to us, And then, I remember the first time I saw Valiant Swart, came to Wings in Braamfontein. And there was a guy, he had literally had like fans outside. One guy shaved Valiant into the back of his head. And he was like, whoa. And he was Afrikaans, singing completely in Afrikaans. And that's what Battery 9 meant to us also, this industrial heavy band with singing Afrikaans. So those were my musical influences when I started.
I read an article, one interview with you that you did a few years ago where you said that you really enjoyed the hustle and bustle of Joburg. You enjoyed the creative energy of Joburg. But ultimately now, you live in Cape Town. So why the move? But also, what are some of the differences that you experience now to having your home base be in Cape Town as opposed to when it was in Joburg?
Well, I wanted to get as far away as possible from my ex-husband. I'm joking. Not really. No. So I wanted to get out of there and start life over. Nutshell version. And then came here and I've been here for 10 years. It's a long time already. I think it's starting to feel like it's safe to almost say I'm Cape Townian now after 10 years. Very different places, but as a musician, you never truly belong to any place. Hey, you're always moving, so you're always traveling. I mean, this pandemic, this is the longest I've ever been home since I was maybe 18 years old.
Me too, actually. Or the longest time that I've been in one place.
Yes, yeah.
Which is starting to get to me, but that's a whole other discussion. Ooh.
I'm loving it. I'm really starting to I'm getting scared of the fact that we're going to have to mission again. No, I'm loving it.
I think that you post enough sunset photos on the promenade for you to be considered a Cape Townian, Karen. Definitely.
You can mock me all you like. You press the little heart button when you see them, don't you?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, and now that I live in Joburg, I take the piss out of Cape Town all the time, but it's just because I miss it so much. It's a good place to be on lockdown, but I'm a daddy and mommy's girl, and I miss my parents.
Oh, you're only child, Tekla.
Yes, I am an only child. And for an Italian family, that's very weird. But my father always says that he believes in quality, not quantity. So I don't know. What can you do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What does your dad do for a living? What do your parents do?
So my mother is retired and my father is a tour guide. So you can imagine at the moment, with the current pandemic that's going down, he is losing his mind, but also driving my mother insane because he's at home all the time.
Is that where you get your warmth from, you say, from your father?
Definitely.
Your love for people?
Definitely. My father and I are exactly the same person. Exactly the same.
I've always wondered because you're so, you're a real people's person, eh?
Oh, thank you. But I think that, when I was growing up, because my father and I were the same person, we used to butt heads all the time because we didn't really understand each other. And because my father saw a lot of me in him in me. So he was like, oh God, is this what I'm going to have to deal with for the next 20 odd years? So we only really became close when I hit like 21, 22. Because those teenage years, those were quite hectic. And I honestly wouldn't have wanted it any other way, because I feel like now that I'm old enough to have that kind of, that great relationship with both of my parents, I appreciate it more, and I only appreciate it more as they get older as well.
Yeah. And your mom, what did she do? Sorry, just last part of my interview before.
No, that's fine. No, I'm loving this. I'm loving this so much.
I've always wondered.
So my mother has done like 1,000,001 things. So she used to be an accountant, and then she was a property broker, and then she worked with my dad, and then she was in catering for a bit. And then one day she just came home and she said to my father, I don't want to work anymore. I want to make a house a home. And I've worked I've worked long and I've worked hard, and now this is what I want to do. So now you got to go out and make a lot of money. My dad went, okay. And I really respected my father for that, because he never turned around and was like, what? He was just like, well, happy wife, happy life. So you want to be a homemaker? That's cool. I'm gonna do what I need to do. And my parents, Karen, honestly, are the most, I'm so lucky because they are the most supportive parents. They never said no. If I presented something to them that they didn't understand or didn't agree with, they would always ask me why. So they never closed any doors in my face. The one thing my father did tell me, because I took 2 years off after I left matric, the one thing my father did say to me was, when you decide what it is that you want to study, make sure you know, 100%. Because I'm not paying for something that you're going to drop out halfway. If you do that, then you're on your own. Then, that side hustle that you're doing working as a bartender at Zula Bar, then all of that money that you make is going to have to go towards supporting yourself, because I can't. I'm making an investment in you, so you need to know with 100% assurity that this is what you want to do. And I was so shit scared of fucking up that it took me 2 years to realize, okay, this is it. Because I took 1 year off and then ended up taking another year. And then I knew in that second year that there was something missing. I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And that something else was going to UCT and studying. And it was that, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Like additional, like tertiary education way of thinking, that critical way of thinking that university teaches you. And I don't know if I would be in the same position if I hadn't have gone to UCT, but I always tell a lot of like up and coming artists or musicians or just creatives that are looking to get into the industry, I always say to them, I went to UCT, but you don't need to go to UCT. Like I still think that I would be on the same path if I hadn't gone to UCT. Maybe it might have taken me a bit longer, but I still would have like had those skills in me. Like I still would have had my passion for music. I still would have had my passion for writing. So going to a varsity college or a UCT, I don't think is something that people need to do in order to become a success. Not in this day and age anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you too.
Yeah.
But there's that something about community. That's what I think that's what the main thing that a university or a tertiary college or film school or advertising school offers you is a connection. In the end, connection is everything. When you want to have movement, to progress, you need connections. You can't do it alone.
I mean, my connection was working at Zula and meeting.
That was a great place.
Yeah. Oh, everybody, people that I still work with to this day are people that I met when I was bartending at Zula.
I was also a bartender for a long time, eh?
Really?
Yeah, in Melville. Long time. Oh, I was a waitress for maybe 4 years of my life. But the worst bartending job I did was at a place called Red Barrel.
Sounds fantastic.
It wasn't. It was a sports bar kind of shitty place where all the jocks went, and they used to grab your bum, and they used to make remarks, and you basically get sexually harassed the whole night and get tips. But our manager was an alcoholic, and every night when we cashed up, he would accuse one of the waitresses of stealing after he'd been buying drinks for all his friends. It was horrible. It was horrible. #MeToo. No, that was okay. But you learn people skills when you work in those kind of environments. You have to be fast on your feet, and maybe somebody's inebriated and glasses are breaking and it's packed and you've got to get things done. There's tons of people skills that you learn.
100%. I think the worst gig that I ever worked at Zula was when Fokoff were playing. Oh my God. Because we'd always know we'd like stock up on Black Label. We'd buy like extra Black Label for that night if they were ever playing. And the people at the bar, they were like 4 rows deep, and I never used the bar blade, and obviously the Black Label, it's a twist off cap. And I served so many Black Labels that night that there was an imprint in my hand. I'd like from twisting off all of the Black Label bottles, like I'd literally like in my skin, there was like an indent. No, you know, I think you've got to be some sort of person, you know, level of character to work in the service industry. Like it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah, chaos. Like the entertainment industry, it's a great first step into the next level of chaotic.
Oh my God. Yeah. But to bring it back to one of the things that I actually wanted to talk about was your TED Talk that you did in 2016. I've always wanted to apply to do a TED Talk, but I'm so shit scared because you don't read off anything, right? You just gooi. You just go from like memory. And that for me is like quite nerve-wracking to stand up in front of a whole bunch of people and to just like speak. And I, you know, when I was doing my research for this podcast, I had no idea that you'd done a TED Talk, and I watched it and it was so great because you you use Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you turned it was so cool, and you turned it into like explaining the different types of musicians. So for everybody who hasn't listened to your TED Talk, I'll break it down very quickly if I can remember. So level 1, you had the classical musician who is basically like trained their whole life and is technically a genius.
Yes.
Level 2, you had the jazz musician who's technically brilliant but focuses more on like improv. Level 3, you had the musician who can play an instrument and sing, but it's less about being the best and more about like the gees.
Like the most musos that
Yeah. And then
muso.
level 2, level 2 is my favorite. Level 4 was the singer who essentially performs with backtracks. And then I think you mentioned Kurt Darren, which made me laugh. Anyway, and then
the artists, they don't write their own, don't write their own music necessarily, and they don't play an instrument, and they sometimes don't even need a band. Like Kurt Darren or Seal. You know, he played South Africa without a band. But yeah, and then at the very bottom
was the DJ. Mm-hmm.
But they're not actually in the hierarchy. They think they are. They're the reserves. They're on the bench. But they see themselves as musicians. They can't play an instrument. They can't write a song.
I can't wait.
They press play, faders, and that's it. There's no performance aspect. They produce something at home and then they press play when they do it live. And then you flip it in terms of who gets paid the most. And then the hierarchy changes. Suddenly, when people's all, they put number 1.
There's saliva.
Yeah, 2013, 3 years, David Guetta was number 1 on all it's the top. Avicii, all those guys. It's just DJs make the most money, have the biggest hits. Then the kind of Christina Aguilera, like people like Billie Eilish have changed that. Mm-hmm. She can play instruments and write her own songs. But for a long time, it was whatever. Jennifer Lopez, who's actually a dancer, or Madonna, who's actually a dancer, but just sings, and other people construct, And then it's musos, bands, Foo Fighters. So we're in the middle as we play music. And then the jazz people make very little money, even though they are incredible and better than all these other people. But the people who make the least money, of course, the people who've devoted their entire lives to an instrument, your entire life playing the bassoon, but you make 8,000 Rand a month at Cape Philharmonic Orchestra. Completely unfair. Life is not fair, kids. It's not.
What is your lived experience? Like the advantages and the disadvantages of being a number 3, like you just said.
You fit in everywhere because you don't fit in anywhere. And you've got that same as being an only child. You fit in everywhere because you don't fit in anywhere. I get that often because I'm either female, Afrikaans, white, whatever. We all have those areas. So whatever the thing is that makes you the strongest is also the thing that makes you the weakest. The controlling forces in the world, money, sex, power, when used for good, changes everything. When used for bad, also changes everything. So being in the middle, you can have a clear view of what everybody's doing because you're not so focused. Sometimes I think people who are expert at only one thing, that's the one thing that they do better than any of us. But to have insight and to be my motto in life, whenever things get too complicated, I don't know what to do. I always say broad strokes. Sometimes when things get too complicated, just go back to broad strokes. Draw a line in the sand and this way or that way. Yeah, actually, problems have very few questions to ask before you solve a problem. So that's what it is about in the middle. It's more about the passion. And but I don't know. I mean, Flip, I've just played with the Philharmonic Orchestra and I was just looking at those people. I was like, what must it feel like? Or look at Dan Patlansky playing the guitar. And it's like an appendage. It is a part of his body, the way he plays it. He just always knows where his fingers have to go. I mean, so so jealous of him in a way. It's just like, Dan, how do you know, he turns an inanimate object into a living animal. I mean, you see him play. So yeah, I don't know, but that's just where I am. I'm just there in the middle. I don't know how. Muso. Just,
I mean,
but if there for the jewel.
I mean, you say you're, just there in the middle and there for the jewel, but it's been an incredible 2 decades. I mean, your career is, the only word that I can think of off the top of my head is illustrious. I mean, the people that you've played with and the stages that you've graced. And was there, like, looking back on it, was there ever one moment where you were like, Karen, like, this is it? Like, this is what we've been preparing for. Like, do not screw this up. Like, was there a set?
I know, I have it often. I just had it before I spoke to you. I'm having it now while I'm speaking to you. Just before this interview, I spoke to Faith Popcorn in New York and talking about things. We're going to do something with her. And she's one of my heroes. I don't know. I did a song with my son during lockdown. I did a concert on top of our roof at our apartment in Seaport. It happens all the time. I think for me, the best I can put it is actually to just tell you, when Johnny Clegg was on my show, he spoke about his fantastic adventure that he had as a child. When I asked him about those early days when he went to the hostels and he went dancing and his mother didn't know where he was and the police had to bring him back. And he just talked about this fantastic adventure. And I just resonated with it so much because that's how I see my life. That's how I see art. Everything is part of a fantastic adventure. You know, life is filled with pain and sorrow and joy and disgust and curiosity and beauty and elation and all these things. And it's a ride. And I'm just really happy to be doing what I love. In fact, more than happy, I fight to be able to do what I love. I grew up with a lot of people and images of people, that women especially, that were just not living the lives they wanted to live. And I just made a decision very young that I was not going to be like that. I was not going to be like that. And you make that decision all the time. You just, you create your life, and it's a job. And I realized that. I think that's a saving grace for me. I realized at a young age that if I don't create the life that I want to live, the cards that I've been dealt I'm going to end up in the suburb where I grew up, married with 3 kids. You know what I mean? What do I want? You know, there's only so many days you have in your life, and I want to spend them in the arts, music, television, media, fine art. These are my passions, and people.
So how do you balance that aspect of creativity with how much the world has changed digitally, in terms of now musicians, a huge part of what musicians do is social media and marketing themselves online. And how do you decide what is yours to keep and what is yours to share online? Because I've seen that a lot of musicians fall prey to having their online activity eclipse their musical activity, and have what people are saying about them become more about what's going on online than the music.
That's a great question. Yeah, it's the first time ever where we're able to broadcast ourselves in this way, you know. But just because you're able to broadcast yourself doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it 3 times a day. Just because you are able to promote through the medium of your phone or, your YouTube channel or your Instagram, whatever, doesn't mean you should be doing it all the time. for me personally, everybody's different, and I think you've got to do what's right for you. But for me, the whole social media thing, it's just an extension of my creativity to me. I mean, of course, I sell tickets or you promote a TV show or maybe promote some charity causes or whatever. There's certain part of it that's maybe business orientated, but it's still just another way to express. Like you use a guitar to express yourself, or you use the pen to express yourself, and video, photos do the same. But my biggest fear isn't that actually people are overexposing. My biggest fear is people are becoming, number one, very boring, which is terrible. Or that's the worst thing in a musician. You can rather be abominable, but if you're boring, you're out. You cannot be boring. And the other thing is that you're very narcissistic, not realizing that you've got something that's like, just because I have a fountain doesn't mean that I should just be standing next to the fountain and drinking my own water the whole day. Maybe consider that there are plants around you. Maybe consider that you could use that water to grow lots of plants, or maybe you've got neighbors who are flipping thirsty.
I love this metaphor.
Yeah, we've become this little window, a piece of glass we carry in our pockets. It's also just made of sand. So are we. We're just gonna die. Where the glass comes from sand, and people do too. So
that got dark quickly.
I think no, but I mean seriously, we're at a point in history where meaning has to be added. This pandemic, this trouble that we have in the world is because of capitalism. Just carried on and on and on. Let's make money, doesn't matter. Children in the factory, tomorrow's all right. We've got hotbeds too, people. Don't worry, this is very cheap, but we're killing the ocean and we're ruining the sea, and we're subjecting people to health risks, and nobody cares. Here we are. Post-capitalism, it's here. The future is right now. Not yesterday, not 10 years from now, right now. So actually the people that care are going to be the new rock stars. The people that follow through are going to be the new artists. People who do things properly are going to be in high demand, because everybody's looking at everything and they're overwhelmed, and they 2 minutes this, 2 minutes this, 2 minutes that, 2 minutes. But what we need are people who can take something on, do the beginning, the middle, the end, and then carry on from there. But we're also scatterbrained at the moment. It's worrying, and the social media is not helping.
Not at all. So after launching your TV show and having people essentially invite you into their homes, did it become harder to keep that degree of privacy that you had attained, or did you find it quite easy?
No, I kind of, there's a saying, it says a private life is a happy life. I've always tried to maintain that, because, you don't want to put your heart and soul on display for the whole world to, I don't want to put my child on the cover of a magazine. It looks like it's gone out of fashion now, but jeez, I mean, how many times people have asked me to take pictures with my child and put it on it. And it's just, it's just a personal thing, I've just always, I think also because I'm a girl, I know, I think in your generation, it's almost passé now. It's the end of gender, people are fluid, but it frustrates me immensely, that the question that a woman gets asked all the time is, so how old is your baby and how old is your son? But they won't ask that same question to your male counterpart. You're at the airport going to a meeting, like, so who's taking care of your kid now? And you would never ask a man the same thing. But the mother gets asked, like, yeah, he's in front of the TV with a 6-pack of beers, he's fine. And you're like, what do you think? Where do you think he is? So yeah. It's still different for men and women. Hopefully that'll change. I think it will in the next decade or so. But you definitely have to prove yourself as a woman. Still, women don't have that baggage, I guess.
Is that why you called your new studio in Philadelphia Mothership?
Well, yes, in a way, because the mothership is always looking at the big picture. A mother is always looking at the big picture. What is the best for all, not just what's the best for me. And that's I live by that. Do what's right, not because of what you can get out of it. Secondly, it's called Mothership because we're a spacecraft on our own voyage through deep space, but we're also a harbor. A mothership is also a harbor, like a Starship Enterprise, or and your spaceship, Tekla's little spaceship, can come and dock at Mothership, and then Mommy will take good care of you, and we'll refuel you and have a nice chat, make a lovely cup of tea, and then you can do your thing. And we're able to. It's just an extension of what I believe in. That there's so much power in collaboration, because you just accelerate your growth as on every level, personally, professionally, spiritually, emotionally, when you share. And that's what you spoke about earlier, about how musicians are finding it difficult to balance that. What do I put on what do I give away, and what do I keep? The question that you should ask yourself is, what do you want to do for a living? Because if you want to be a musician, don't give away the music. Give away the T-shirt. If you want to be in fashion, don't give away the clothes. Give away a song. Show people where your value lies and show people what it is that you sell. And that's the point of it. I think you need to sell it. I hardly ever I don't give away tickets to shows. And I'll never make a song free, even though you make freaking 7 cents of a stream. But I just won't, because that's what I do for a living. That's my work. And unless it's for charity, it's just the principle of it. And I think musicians are finding it difficult to navigate right now because it's able to listen to it for free. They do put up everything on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, give away tickets in the hope that it'll pull more people to the show. And I don't know. I just don't subscribe to that particular way of marketing. Maybe it works for somebody else, but for me, I make a conscious decision to not. I'll give away everything else, but not the music, not the tickets, and not the song. Yeah.
The several times that I've spoken to you over the last few months, all of the conversations that we've had, you end up mentioning Mothership Studios, and I can tell that you're incredibly proud of it, and of the work that you are doing and will be doing there. And I know that you are as passionate about developing, nurturing, fostering up and coming musical talent, fresh musical talent, as I am. And I wanted to ask you about your vision for Mothership, yes, but also how you're working with the unsigned and independent artist to do exactly what you were just talking about and educate them about the business side of things and how to go about really marketing themselves and their careers.
Yeah. Well, okay, like you said before, I was a coach on The Voice, which was like a whole vibe and experience. And there I learned something, that 80% of people who ask for advice don't really want it. They kind of do. You sit there and flip and explain and take it apart, and the person just goes and does whatever they want to. So I've changed my vision slightly, and I'm focusing on, I rather work with one person at a time. I rather form a relationship with you as somebody that's already there, busy doing it. You're on a journey. You're freaking creating stuff. Now you have a blog, and then you've got this podcast. Then you're busy with the band. You're doing stuff already. You deserve a break. You deserve opportunity. You deserve, and you should be drawn in, because there are just too many people that are standing around waiting for somebody to give them a career. And it's just never, ever going to happen. You make your own life. You create your own life. So I rather help a few people and work closely with them and build bonds and relationships and put all that energy into to fewer. Where before I was all about, we are the world, everybody, but it's actually wasteful to those that are on their journey. So I work on specific projects. And in the same breath, you can only do something properly if you, I don't know, that the lockdown has also made me more aware of that.
My fellow South Africans.
There are just so many hours in a day, and you can't really take something to the next level if you don't put in the time. These things take a lot of time. I mean, you know this, you've managed bands and been involved. It takes so much. So you really, really have to freaking love it.
Managing a band is basically just glorified babysitting. And I mean,
and there's no money for so many years, and when the money comes, they don't want to pay. That's what happens. It's hard. It's really difficult, and you have to be. There's no. All those old cliches are just true. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. Yeah,
but
very few shortcuts.
You've been on both sides of the coin, right? Making English music, but also making Afrikaans music. And I feel like Afrikaans music has changed so much in the last 10 years. And, you see the likes of like Van Pletzen and Early B, and there's this new wave of Afrikaans artists that are emerging. But I know that you also collaborated with Early B recently on this season of your show. But where do you see Afrikaans music going in your mind?
The Afrikaans music scene has and will always be very polarized. On the far pole, we have obviously Steve Hofmeyer. And then maybe on the other end, the Antwoord. That's how polarized it is.
Do you think generally Afrikaans music is quite conservative though?
I don't know how many bands there are now. I think it's not anymore. Not anymore. But the on the commercial side of things, yes. But it's like that with all music. But Afrikaans music is very, very polarized. We're going through South Africa. The world is going through massive identity. And now with the world that's changed forever, I think we're going to have a strong rise of humanity, democracy, people that are, looking at the finer things, the smaller things, the meaning, the love, the detail, the growth, all these things. And on the other side, the rise of fascism. And Afrikaans people have a terrible history of this, of being scared and running to the church where they tell everybody how God thinks, and God's a white Afrikaans man who, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird being Afrikaans, eh? I don't think you'll ever understand. It's very, very weird. Like the stuff ook of Polisiekar did, what they actually did. All those people who came there to drink those black labels. I mean, it's just because it's such we've got a bad side. Gosh, it's terrific, horrifying. We're so ashamed.
I used to sit, because obviously, my first language is English, and then conversational Italian, and then then you have your Afrikaans that I learned in school, and then conversational Xhosa. But I would sit with my word book translating folk off lyrics because I wanted to know what they meant, because I had no idea. That was, now we've got Google Translate, but before then I'd sit with my pencil and write things out. But for me, it was always like you said, very polarizing, like either Steve Hofmeyer on the one hand or Die Antwoord on the other.
But there's anger. Afrikaans people, we have a long history of being angry and passive aggressive also. It's I don't know what happened. What did I say? I had somebody on my show, Adrian Basson, the editor for Network 24, News 24. And I just said, Fernand, he interviewed me when we were kids. I'm kind of the same age. He was a varsity journalist and I played at the varsity, my first gigs. I said, Fernand, is dit my beurt om jou te... Jy het een van die eerste mense wat my geïnterview het, Fernand, is dit my beurt om jou te interview. Broer. Just said, broer. And then these Steve Hofmeyer's kid came at me and started sending me all these just trolling. They were trolling me, and they found some picture of me when I did a documentary years ago, and I was standing in front of Orania and I was throwing zaps at the side. But you stop and it's yes, and there are very hectic right-wing people, that are still out there, and they were trolling me. And still now, even with this Black Lives Matters, I just put something up and then all these people come back and they're just horrible. And it's scary because you live in your own bubble and you think everybody's the same. But you're not. You assume, and that's what collaboration taught me. Don't assume just because we're both women, we both feel the same way about this thing or that topic. Don't assume because people are Afrikaans, they believe the same thing and see things the same way, because there's so many people that just, they just choose to be the spokesperson of a whatever generation. And that's what I hated in the beginning when they said, it's the Zoid generation. It was please don't put that on me. Because it's such a typical Afrikaans thing to do, to label. They just need somebody to be, speaking on behalf of everybody, and it has to be ordered.
Puts a huge weight on your shoulders as well.
Yeah, but it's also it's representative of how it used to be in the old days. And it's not like that anymore. In the old nationalistic days where some man decided who can sit where and who can go where, and, who can work and who has to be at home, and who can ride on the bus and who can't.
The record of stable government will continue in South Africa.
It's interesting to see, and I think, when it comes to Afrikaans music, I'm one of those people. I play at rock festivals, but then I also play at Afrikaans is Groot. They'll invite me to sing my ballads always, I go sing my ballads there. And then, I go there and a lot of these people are, 1985, 1986. It's just the clothing, the way of thinking, you can see, these people, we're not the same. But then I'm grateful that I can be there and be part of that conversation,
You mentioned very briefly earlier on how, the world is changed politically, socially, but also the music industry has changed because of COVID-19. The way that we do business has changed. How do you think the music industry has changed for the better or not because of this pandemic going forward?
Well, what it has done is that, anybody who's a big talker, you're out. You've got to have the skills. The hype and the marketing is only going to take you that far. It's the guy who has, Max Harrell, he just jumped on that. He did it. He brought out that single. It was a little 1 minute ditty on TikTok. He saw the gap. He took it. He turned it into a track. He went on and he continued and made other tracks. He's making his own merch now. It's incredible.
Smart
it's
boy.
just, and true artist. That's an artist. Artists are people who can make things happen out of thin air, like magic. When nobody knew who Max Harrell was, or very few people knew, maybe the EDM people knew. Now your freaking granny knows.
My mother knows, which means
yes, there we
it's
go.
huge. If it reaches
The
my
final
mother.
frontier. Mom knows. So that's going to happen. And also the fact that we're all at home cocooning now is going to play a massive role, and we have to. If those who haven't invested in online, haven't invested in digital, haven't, expanded into these areas, are now forced to, whether they like it or not. And the ones who did it before are in a better position for it. Eh? So, I mean, and somebody like Dave, who started out as a guy who made memes, actually.
Mm-hmm.
His popularity with the giftness started with the memes. And yeah, he's just creative, doing things, taking on freaking the SABC, getting up on carte blanche. Yeah, it's just incredible. Being an artist, be a flippin' artist. Don't be an influencer. Don't be a marketer. Don't be a flippin' fashion show. Be an artist.
It's also like one of the things when I had Dave on an episode of Texx Talks, one of the things that we spoke about was how he, similar to what you do, uses his platform for good, to educate. You're doing, I love what you're doing currently with your art auctions, which is really cool. I mean, you're reaching out to other people and
taking that next level now, though. Eh?
No, but that's cool.
Next
oh, really?
level coming up. Yeah.
No,
Next
tell me,
level.
give me the exclusive. What you doing?
We are going to. We did Facebook. With anybody who's listening, I did these Facebook art auctions during lockdown, level 5 and 4, and we've grown from 3 artists to almost 13. I want to get 19 artists, and I'm actually going to do a proper live streaming art auction.
Oh wow! Like with the gravel and everything.
Met alles.
A gavel,
and,
not a gravel, a gavel.
Yeah, and yeah, so I'm actually, yeah, I'm very much being an art dealer at the moment, and I've learned so much working with Lionel Smith, working with Skalk van der Merwe, working with Malusi Piet, and I love it. I'm just loving exploring it. Yeah, fine artists are a different breed, eh? So I mean, yeah, it's just fantastic. We've got a WhatsApp group, and we flip and plan auctions, and we talk about art, and we curate together. I'm really enjoying it.
No, but that's incredible. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I hope that the next time that we do this, it can be at the Mothership Studios and not when we're sitting at opposite ends of the country, please.
Yes, yeah, I hope so too. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
The world is full of strange behavior. Every man has to be his own savior. I know I can make it on my own if I try, but I'm searching for a great heart to stand me by. Underneath the African sky, a great heart to stand me by. And I'm searching for the spirit of the great heart to hold and keep me by. I'm searching for the spirit of the great heart under African sky. Sometimes I feel that you really know me. Sometimes there's so much you can show me. There's a highway of stars across the heaven, whispering song of the wind in the grass. There's a rolling thunder across the savannah, a hope and a dream at the edge of that sky. And your life is a story like the wind. Your life is a story like the wind. I'm searching for the spirit of the great heart to hold and keep me by. I'm searching for the spirit of the great heart under African sky. Sometimes I feel that you really know me. Sometimes there's so much you can show me. Oh, lo, 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 you, oh, you, oh, lo, 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 you, oh, you, oh, lo, 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 you, oh, you, oh, lo, lo, lo.
Shout out to Karen Zoid for joining us in studio. Thank you for joining us for another Texx Talks. Be sure to check out textalks.com for more episodes. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and listen to Texx Talks on all good streaming platforms. From myself, Texx, our producers, Jonathan Ings and Matt Lutz, and our assistant researcher and collaborator, Al Clapper, catch y'all on the flip side.